Click the bell icon to get latest videos from Ekeeda.
Hello friends, today we are going to discuss about the message passing system in inter-process communication. What are the methods to achieve them? What are the advantages and disadvantages of using a message passing system? And what are the issues that we found that the using of message passing system? In the process of message passing mechanism, in order to communicate in an inter-process communication of cooperating processes, process can communicate and synchronize without the use of shared data item or address space. It is practically useful in a distributed environment where the processes from different computers are connected via a network program. For example, an internet chat program can have 2 or 3 recipients from different internet computer systems which can then share messages via a chat box. 2 functions are generally used to pass messages in the inter-process communication. First one is send and another process is receive. We will see that how the primitives are used in different scenarios. Messages sent by a process can be of 2 types. One is a fixed size, another is a variable size. If the message is a fixed size, then the system layout is much more straightforward, but it makes the programming task much complexer. If the message is in variable size, then the system is more complex, but it makes the programming task more easier. This trade-off can be seen throughout any operating system designs. Suppose if process P and process Q want to communicate via message passing, then before any message passing, a communication link should be established between them. Now we are concerning with the physical implementation of the link, but as the logical implementation of the link. There can be 3 scenarios while we are establishing a link. There is a direct and indirect communication, a synchronous and asynchronous communication, and the automatic and explicit buffering problem. We will see different features in the communication of message passing models now. The first one is naming. While we are considering a direct communication, then a process may be referred to another process while it is communicating to each other. This reference is mainly known as a PID. Now in a direct communication, a process must know the PID of this receiving process. In that way, it can send the process to another. The 2 primitives here, a send and receive, can be done in this way. Like send function is giving the 2 parameters, like the process name P and the message. Here it is defining that a message should be sent to the process P. And while we are saying that the key receive message with Q, message, then we are saying that the message should be sent to the process Q only. Now in this way, the send and receive messages can be done in the direct communication. Now in terms of the communication link, 3 points must be remembered. The first one is a communication link should be established before passing any messages to the processes, and the processes must know each other's PID. The next one is 2 processes can have exactly 1 link between them, and the third one is a link can have at least and exactly 2 processes with them. That is defining that the message should go from the sender to the receiver only. Now a version of this address space is known as a symmetrical address space. Now again another version of this address space is an asymmetrical address space in which the symmetry is then varianted. There a sending message requires the PID of message to be done by the receiver, like the send primitive is written as send parameterized with P, message, that the message is to be sent to the process P. But the receiving end may not know the sending messages processes. There, a receiving primitive is done written as receive bracket ID, message. Here, the ID variable can refer to any process, and the recipient must not know or should not know the actual process name. By giving it this asymmetrical address space, it is allowing the reliability to use any process get removed and received by any recipients. The disadvantage of using this both symmetric and asymmetric address space is the limited modularity of the resulting process definition. That any identity reference to a process, if the process reference changes, then all the references to all the processes that it has made, like sending or receiving, has to be changed. And the change in the older reference must be made in every process definition in the newer reference. Now, the hardcore programming of explicitly defining name to the processes is now less desirable with indirect communication, which has become more popular. In the indirect communication, all processes can send messages in a mailbox, which is known as a common mailbox or port. A sender can then place a message in a mailbox, and the receiver can then consume the message from the mailbox. This mailbox can be identified by a unique identifier. For example, a POSIX operating system uses a message queue which has a unique identification number to its mailbox. Now, in order to communicate between this process via indirect process communication message, the mailbox should be first shared. Then the communication can take place. Send is the message primitive with a comma message. The parameters are that A is the shared mailbox name and the message is the message to be placed. As same, receive with parameterized with again a comma message, where A is the shared mailbox name from which the message is to be resumed. Now, for connection link, there are three ways. The first one is a connection link should be established between two processes, and two or more processes can have more than one link. Next one is that the two or more processes can have different links with each link for each shared mailbox. And the third one is the connection link is established between two processes only if they are sharing a shared mailbox. Now, if there are different mailboxes via which processes can communicate with each other, two processes must communicate with each other having a shared mailbox only. If there are three processes communicating with each other, P1, P2 and P3. Now the P1 has placed the message in the mailbox and P2 and P3 wants to resume the message from the mailbox. Now to which process the operating system will give the message to? This decision can be taken by the operating system into different scenarios. The first one is there should be one receive option at a time for any processes. And the third one is that there should be only one link established with only two processes, so that one process can generate a message and other can receive the message only. There is one more way to address this concern is the operating system arbitrarily select between the messages that which process to send them. Like between P2 and P3, any of the process the message can be sent, but not both of them. Any direction or algorithm like round robin, which in turn takes the receiving messages for P2 again for P3, can be decided. Now the mailboxes can be created by the operating system and the owner. When the owner is creating an operating system's message, when the owner or a process is creating a mailbox, then the owner of the mailbox can only receive the message and any user can send the messages to that mailbox. By using this technology, we can assure that only one receiver is receiving all the messages to a only mailbox. This mailbox can be shared between two processes. One is the user one and one is the receiver one. The receiver one is actually the owner of the mailbox. When the process terminates, then the mailbox is deleted by the operating system, and all the users who used to send messages to the mailbox are notified that the mailbox is deleted. Now, if the operating system is creating a mailbox, then it has its own implementation regardless of which processes are using the mailboxes. So, the operating system provides a mechanism for the process to create a mailbox, to access the mailbox, and to delete a mailbox. Now, when the operating system is creating a mailbox, a process firstly or as the owner of the mailbox can receive only the messages. But it can be then passed to any other process the privileges and the ownership by appropriate system call. So by using this technology, many receiver can be of a single different mailbox. The next concern is synchronization. As we can see that the process can communicate with the send and receive call with other processes, and there are various design implementation for the operating system to make that system process and send and receive call. This can be blocking or synchronous call and non-blocking and asynchronous call. So what is the blocking send and blocking receive? The blocking send blocks the user to get send messages to the message queue or the mailbox after they can read, and only the receiver receive the messages. So while the receiver receives the messages in a synchronous or blocking send, the user or the sender cannot send any messages or cannot place any messages in the mailbox. And in a blocking receive, the receiver is blocked while the sender is sending a message and the message is placed into the mailbox. The receiver then unblocks and receives the message from the mailbox, or in direct communication in the message passing, that message is directly received from the sender. In a non-blocking send or asynchronous send, the sender can send the messages and resume its operation without any concern. And in a non-blocking receive, a receiver can receive messages from the mailbox or even receive null. Now, if we are using both blocking send and receive, then a rendezvous system is going on, and it can provide the producer-consumer problem with a trivial solution, where a producer can produce an item and a consumer is consuming that another item. The next concern is buffering. Whether in direct or indirect, synchronous or asynchronous communication, there should be a temporary queue in which the message should be placed. This is known as buffering, and this buffering can be done in three implementations. One is the zero capacity, one is the finite capacity or bounded capacity, and one is the unbounded capacity. With the zero capacity, the temporary queue has an utmost length of 0. That is, the CPU cannot allow any messages to wait in the queue or the buffer to get delivered to the receiver. In the bounded capacity, there is a boundation of limit of size n, say, so the user or the sender can send n messages at most, and the queue is full, then the sender has to wait for some time so that the receiver can receive some messages, and again the sender can send messages then. And the receiver has to wait if the buffer is empty, so the sender can put some messages in it to receive by the receiver. In an unbounded capacity buffer, the sender can send any number of messages like what they done in the naming of direct and indirect communication, and the receiver can send or receive any number of messages from that unbounded buffer. Now, zero capacity is actually making the direct communication between the two processes. So these are all the concerns while we are message passing system in the inter-process communication we are using. Thank you for watching this video. Stay tuned with Ekeeda and subscribe to Ekeeda.